This is the last one. The very last Tasmanian tiger on Earth, filmed pacing its cage in a zoo back in 1933. 3 years later, it was dead, and its entire species died with it. We called it extinct, gone forever. But here's the strange thing about forever. It doesn't always stick. Because these 10 animals were all declared lost, wiped out, gone for good, some of them for millions of years, until one day, against all odds, they turned up alive. And number 1 had been extinct since the age of the dinosaurs. Let's start with number 10. And if you're afraid of insects, you might want to brace yourself. This is Wallace's giant bee, the largest bee on the entire planet. It's about the size of a human thumb, with a wingspan of 2.5 inches and a pair of jaws like a stag beetle. The last time anyone saw one was in 1981. And then, for almost 40 years, nothing. No sightings at all. Most experts quietly assumed it was gone for good. But in 2019, a small team pushed deep into the humid forests of Indonesia's North Moluccas, and there, tucked inside a termite nest high in a tree, they found a single living female. It was the first time the giant bee had ever been photographed alive. Number 9 takes us to the island of Madagascar. This is Voeltzkow's chameleon. And before the year 2018, the last time any scientist had laid eyes on a living one was in 1893. For over a century, it existed only as a handful of faded museum specimens. Researchers weren't even sure it was still out there, so an expedition set out to find it, searching the forests of the Northwest for days. And they finally found their chameleon in the unlikeliest of places, an overgrown hotel garden. But the real surprise came next. They discovered something never recorded before. The females, when they're stressed or pregnant or facing off with a male, explode into brilliant patterns of purple, red, and green. A living rainbow the world had given up on for 125 years. Number 8 has a name that pretty much says it all: the terror skink. Back in 1876, scientists described this lizard from a single specimen, and then nothing. For more than 130 years, no one ever saw another one. It was written off as extinct. But in 2003, on a tiny islet off the coast of New Caledonia, a team that was actually there to study sea snakes stumbled straight onto one. And it's easy to see how it earned that name. It's a giant among skinks, up to 0.5 meter long, armed with long, curved, needle-sharp teeth built for hunting prey. For a skink, that is almost unheard of, and it makes this one of the strangest lizards alive. Number 7 is one we actually managed to catch on camera. Meet the silver-backed Chevrotain, sometimes called the Vietnam mouse deer. It's the smallest hoofed animal in the world, no bigger than a rabbit, with a shimmering silver back and a pair of tiny fangs. It hadn't been documented in almost 30 years, and scientists feared it had been wiped out by snare trapping. So a team set hidden camera traps in the dry forests near the city of Nha Trang, and then they waited. Over 5 months, those cameras captured more than 1,000 photographs of a small, silver creature tiptoeing through the leaves. Against all expectation, the little mouse deer was still there. Number 6 actually sings. The new Guinea Singing Dog is one of the oldest and rarest dogs on Earth, famous for an eerie, wolf-like howl that rises and falls almost like whale song. For roughly 50 years, it was believed to be extinct in the wild, hanging on only as a few hundred inbred animals scattered across zoos. But then, high in the remote highlands of Papua, near one of the largest gold mines on the planet, an expedition photographed a pack of wild dogs no one thought could still exist. And in 2020, DNA testing confirmed it. These Highland wild dogs were the original singing dogs, still living free, exactly where science had declared them gone. Number 5 is officially the rarest insect in the world. This is the Lord Howe Island stick insect, though the locals gave it a better name, the tree lobster. It's glossy, jet black, as long as your hand, and as heavy as a mouse. When rats invaded Lord Howe Island around 1920, the tree lobster simply vanished, extinct, and it stayed that way for 80 years. But rising out of the ocean nearby is Ball's Pyramid, a jagged blade of rock, and the tallest sea stack on Earth. In 2001, climbers scaled its cliffs, and clinging to a single bush, hundreds of feet above the waves, they found 24 survivors. The entire species hanging on in one impossible place. Number 4 had been gone longer than any other animal on this list. The Bermuda Petrel, known as the Cahow, once filled the night skies over Bermuda in the millions. But when settlers arrived in the early 1600s, bringing pigs, rats, and cats, the Cahow was devoured almost to nothing. Within a few short decades, it was declared extinct, and for more than 300 years, it survived only in old sailors' tales. Then, in 1951, a small expedition rowed out to a cluster of bare, rocky islets, and there they were. 18 nesting pairs, still clinging to life, 3.5 centuries after the world had buried them. Number 3 is a bird that came back from the dead. The Takahē is a big, round, flightless bird from New Zealand, with deep blue and green feathers and a thick, brilliant red beak. By 1898, it had been officially declared extinct. But one man, a doctor named Geoffrey Orble, simply refused to believe it. He'd heard an unfamiliar call echoing through the remote Murchison Mountains. So in 1948, he hiked back in with a small team, and deep in a hidden valley, he found them. Living Takahē, the first anyone had seen in half a century. Today, after decades of careful protection, this stubborn survivor is slowly climbing back from the very edge of extinction. Number 2 is the loneliest animal on this entire list. On the black volcanic slopes of Fernandina Island, in the Galapagos, lives a giant tortoise known as the fantastic giant tortoise. Her whole species was thought to have died out back in 1906. That's over 100 years without a single confirmed sighting. And then, in 2019, an expedition found her, one lone, elderly female, resting on the bare lava. They named her Fernanda. Later, DNA testing confirmed the impossible. She truly is the fantastic giant tortoise, a species the world had written off for 112 years. And as far as anyone knows, she may be the very last of her kind. And number 1 is the single greatest comeback in the history of life on Earth. In December of 1938, a museum curator in South Africa named Marjorie Courtney-Latimer got a call about a strange fish tangled in a fisherman's net. When she saw it, 5 feet long, steel blue, with thick, fleshy fins that looked almost like limbs, she knew she was looking at something extraordinary. And she was right. It was a coelacanth, a fish that science was absolutely certain had been extinct for 66 million years, since the time of the dinosaurs. A living fossil, hauled up from the deep, almost completely unchanged. It was called the most important natural history discovery of the 20th century. And it leaves us with one haunting thought. If a fish can disappear for 66 million years and still be swimming in the dark right now, how many others are still out there, just waiting to be found? 10 animals the entire world had given up on, and every single one of them still here. So which comeback surprised you the most? Let me know. And remember that goes from the very beginning, the Tasmanian tiger. To this day, people still claim they see one moving through the Australian bush. Extinct? Maybe. But if this list proves anything, it's that nature is very, very good at keeping secrets. There's another story waiting for you right now. Go ahead and click it.